It is time to get down to some actual mixing. Okay, so my iPad has decided that this will be a great time to do a software update, which I accidentally pressed yes on. So once my iPad has updated to the latest 11.4 point whatever, we are going to get on and we're going to start mixing or doing our final mix of some of these tracks here for my album. So we will actually have some music in this video. So if you want to check out the mixing process for the first song here of this album, hang around and we'll get onto that as soon as my iPad is ready to go. So let's nearly go. Hi, my name is Pete. This is Studio Live today, where I will eventually help you create, record and release your best music. And in this series, I'm actually mixing and mastering songs that I've already recorded here in GarageBand iOS here on the iPad. And yay, my iPad is almost ready to go with the updated iOS, so we'll be able to jump in. So in today's video, I'm going to be going through one of the tracks here, which I've just posted a video of the original version of the track, the music video and the lyric video. So thank you to those who've already watched that one. If you haven't already, you can check that out. Obviously, I'll link it up and down as I usually do. But what I'll be doing is I'll be going through the final mix I did of that track and just critiquing it, giving you some tips and tricks of what I actually did when I produced the original track. And then we'll be taking a look and seeing, do we need to do anything else to this track? And it may be nothing, or it may be a few tweaks that we need to do for this final mix that we can then put into our folder ready for the mastering process. So here we go. Let's dive in with track 1, Anxiety, here in my new album. Okay, let's get down to some music. So I'm here on my iPad. I'm on my iPad location and my GarageBand folder here, and I have an entire folder that I have just for this project. So here it is. Here's my album, and here it is. If you can see all of my projects here, you'll be able to see all the tracks that I have planned for this album. So this is going to be a very transparent process. So sorry if you like surprises. There won't be any, because here's all my tracks. So the order of the tracks I've got at the moment, I've got Your Opinion, Anxiety, Falling, For the Birds, The Tree, In Time, Lucky, There's No Such Thing as College, Sin, Home, Drinking With You, and New Day. So they are my 12 tracks that I have at the moment. As I mentioned before, there's a 13th track that I'm considering. I may cut one of these as we go along. We will find out if they all make the final cut. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to skip Your Opinion, because I don't know why, because I released a video for Anxiety yesterday, so I thought we would take a look at Anxiety. Plus, it's a good place to start because it is a song that I recorded and mixed on just 4 tracks. So you can see here that we've only got a guitar and vocal, a background vocal, and a lead vocal. So it's a very basic sort of setup, and this sort of shows the basics of mixing in GarageBand, so I thought it was a good place to start here. Now, the track is mixed as it is, so you can see here that we have a whole lot of volume automation. If you might be able to see behind there, the little volume automation lines. I'll show you about those in a moment. We've got some different sections. We've done some editing here, and if you'd like to check out the complete process, as I mentioned before, there is a whole series where I record and edit and mix and master this track. But what I wanted to do is, with all of these tracks, I just wanted to revisit them all. So there may be literally nothing we need to do here, but I wanted to show you what I've done here. And then the good thing is that over the next week, if you've got ideas and comments and suggestions, throw them in the comments, because I may miss something. You may be listening back, and I think I mentioned in a previous video, you won't have perfect quality because it is an analog output from here into my interface when we're playing back, but it is stereo, it is a decent quality. So if you're hearing things, or if you think, yeah, Pete, you really need to drop the volume of that vocal, or you really need to automate up that guitar line because it's not sounding right, I figure that if I've got, a couple of hundred ears instead of just my ears listening to this track, that'll be great. So the format we're going to use is I'll take you through some of the sort of things that I've done here, give you some tips and tricks that you may want to use in terms of mixing, play with a few sections here where I need it, and then at the end of each of these videos, I'll be playing back the end-to-end track. So if you've heard the track before, or you don't want to listen to the whole track, then you can finish up there. But if you want to hear where the track is at the moment and then provide your feedback, that would be awesome, and we'll get to that at the end. So let's now dive in, and I'll take you through these 4 tracks, how they're set up, and some of the mixing decisions that I made, and some of the settings that we have in here. Okay, so we'll slide out our additional settings over on the side here. So let's look at our panning first of all. So you can see we've got this guitar and vocal panned inside left, so a little bit to the left over here. The same on this one with it to the right. And then we have our vocals sitting right up the middle. So let's do these tracks one by one. So our guitar and low vocals. So let's just take a little bit of a listen. We'll solo and take a listen to the start of this track as to how this vocal sounds. So this is our sort of low acoustic guitar part, and it's the guitar and then some of the backing vocals as well. Because using 4 tracks, I actually had to record these 2 tracks with vocals and guitars on the same track. So let's play that back now. So what you probably can hear there is that the O's, the O's and R's in this song are a little bit quiet, but I actually don't mind that. In the end, the mix sort of works together because you've got the 4 vocals and then you've got the 2 guitars. So these quieter vocals that we have on here are actually okay. Now, I've just realized that I have not done something which I absolutely need to do. Before I start playing with this song, I need to create a duplicate, don't I? So let's hit on select, let's tap on anxiety, and let's hit duplicate. And there we go. So we've got version 2. So let's leave this version 1 and then let's come back in here to version 2 and play around with this. I can't believe I didn't do that. That would have been a big naughty slap on the hand for me, because that's something that I tell you folks to do, to make sure that you're backing up and duplicating your tracks so that you have something to fall back on. If you make a horrible mistake and your undos can't take you out of it, then you know you've got the original there to go. So now that we have that, let's jump in and continue on. So obviously getting your settings right for a track that is guitar and vocals is a little bit different here. So let's jump into my plugins and EQ and see what we have here. So we have a compressor setting. So I've got the threshold set there at minus 20 dB. Now people ask me about the compressor settings and they say, what's a good compressor setting? What do I set my threshold? What do I set my ratio, my attack, my gain, my mix? Well, it really does depend, because depending on the volume of the track, your compression threshold will either have to be higher or lower. If the track itself is quiet, you will then have to dial in a lot more compression. If the track is already very loud, you may only need very light compression. The same with your ratio. So I've only got a 2.6 to 1 ratio on this track because the track is quite, you can see there, even just looking at the waveform, the track itself is quite stable, apart from sort of these louder bits that come in here where we need to pull it down with the louder vocals and guitars, then it's pretty stable there. So we don't need a whole lot there. The gain and the mix, I tend to just leave it sort of unity, not really unity gain, but I leave it 0 dB and the mix at 100%. Sometimes I'll play with that gain, but I tend to add my volume and gain in other ways. And if I'm putting my compressor on, I'll mix in the compressor completely. Occasionally I'll dial this back and have it a little bit less, but usually that's what I do. So the key thing with compression, and I've got a heap of videos all about compression, so I won't go into detail here, but the key thing is to start subtle, start dialing it back in, start with a ratio around 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, and then work out where your threshold needs to sit to sound right, because that is going to impact your track. So the other things we have on here is we have some track reverb. So that is using fairly sort of standard settings in here. I think this is the nice room setting that I used originally and then just tweaked it a little bit. It might even be the exact defaults, but I haven't played a whole lot with that because I kind of like the sound that you get. So it's pretty reverby. So 90% dry, 30% wet. So that's where you're getting this sort of... And I like to use quite a bit of reverb, especially in an acoustic track where you've only got 4 tracks to play with. Then it really glues the track together if we've got some additional reverb here. And I think I've even got some additional reverb or delay on the master as well. Let's have a quick look at our EQ here. So not a whole lot here. All I've really done is I've pulled down the bass a little tiny bit, because with this guitar in particular, it was playing those bassy notes and it was sort of a bit overpowering. I tend to find that I get a little bit too much bass here with some of these presets, so I'll usually EQ and drop the bass down a bit, and I've also dropped the volume a bit. You can see over here that you can use the volume slider, the gain adjustment on EQ, so the gain has come down a little bit using that visual EQ on this track. Okay, let's jump into our next track and take a look. I think these are all fairly similar. Let's look at the first one. So you can see here the difference between that and that one is that we've changed the attack. So the attack on this one is slightly slower. This is very slightly faster, and we haven't mixed in as much compression. So I was saying before, I leave mix at 100%. Clearly I don't, because I mixed this at 81%. The threshold here is slightly different again. Because it's a different recording, I've got the threshold dialed back just by an extra additional dB just to balance out those sounds. So that is where that one is at. I will then move on to we'll continue on with this. We've got the same sort of reverb, and I think that's almost identical. Yep, identical reverb there. And let's check our EQ on this one. We haven't done anything to this one. So because this is our higher guitar, this is playing a little bit of this sort of sound here. And already I'm listening to this going, oh, I really wish I hadn't made that oath not to re-record any of this, but I have done. I am leaving the recordings as they are. I'm just mixing. So that they are okay. Some of these I'm going to sort of start cringing at because they were recorded probably close to a year ago or longer than a year ago. And I'm going to say, hey, that was out of time. That was out of pitch. That was whatever. But they work together in the end. Let's take a look now at our vocals. So the vocal track here, actually let's go to our lead vocal first and then we'll jump back to our background vocal. Not sure why I have background before lead. So the lead vocal sounds a little bit like this. Always thinking, always trying to hold on. And the vocal sound I was going for here, and I think I achieved, is a fairly heavily compressed and fairly reverberant kind of vocal, and you'll see that as we go through the settings here that I've probably crushed this more than I've crushed kind of anything usually. I've got my threshold, you can see, dialed right down there, and let's just give you a bit of a demo of what this is going to sound like if I adjust that threshold, because compression threshold can be one of the things, and ratio, it's one of the things that people ask about a lot. So let's just play with this threshold, and we've got it 36.5. We'll put it back to that because I like it, but we'll just play around with it here now. Always thinking, always trying to hold on. And so you can hear that it still sounds okay when you drop the threshold down, but pulling it back up just means it's pulling all the quieter parts and it's leveling out that vocal. And for a vocal in a song like this, you want it to be that powerful vocal all the way through, nice, really level. So that's why I've got the ratio up here at 3.3 to 1. Let me just show you the difference if I drop the ratio down here. So we'll leave it at 3.3 and I'll drop it down and you'll hear the difference here. Always thinking, always trying to hold on. So there again, and you know, when you're hearing it soloed, and this is probably a key tip that I'll give you here, is that don't do a whole lot of your EQ, even though I'm showing you all of these in solo, so I'm not taking my own advice, but when you're mixing a track, try not to do a whole lot of this sort of work in solo, because the way it sounds soloed is not the same as the way it's going to sound in the mix. And you'll hear there that it sounds a bit breathy, it sounds a little bit overpowering, but when you sort of pull it back into the mix and play it like this, and I always fear that something else, then you can hear that it fits, it works with the mix. So even though these settings are a little bit nuts, and when you hear them by themselves, they might sound a little bit full on, they work in the mix, in my view anyway. Tell me if you think differently. So what we have on here, we've got some enhanced tuning, some stereo delay, some tape delay. So we've used one of the presets here clearly. In fact, what preset is that? Let's come out here. It's our Radio Ready preset that we've used here, and we've got a reasonable amount of pitch control. I'm happy to tell you that I'm not afraid to use some pitch control in a song if it needs it. Some of the songs I don't use any pitch control, and others like this one I use a fair amount, as I've got here. So the delay, ambience, pitch control and compressor are all on there. We'll come back to our settings here. The EQ is probably something you'd like to take a look at as well, because this is the other thing that I've done here. Now you might think, hey, that's a really nice sort of low bassy sound, but it was actually too low and bassy when I first recorded it. And what I actually added is a treble boost. So you might think, well, that's a little bit counterintuitive. You probably didn't need any more treble in this track. If anything, you'd need some more bass, wouldn't you, to get that sort of sound? But let's just show you the difference here if we do play around with this EQ. else will go wrong. It's wrong. You say, even when there's good things happening, the party will be at an end real soon. So you can see when I've leveled out that EQ, the sound that I'm getting there is a little bit sort of more stale, and it doesn't really, the bass is a little bit muddy. It muddies up the mix a little bit. So adding in this treble boost. And you say you might be happy now, but I've a million. Just gives it that crispier top end that works. And again, it's a little bit counterintuitive because you're going, okay, I want a nice powerful vocal. Sometimes adding some air, so what we call air to the top of the mix here in EQ, can actually help give you a more powerful vocal. So I find that that's a really cool trick to use there. And again, just pulling these bass down. Now, when you're doing EQ, a key here is, and the reason that I did my backup beforehand is that as soon as you start touching EQ, there is no undo for the EQ. So once you're in your plugins, you can't undo. It's really a bit frustrating because it makes it harder to play around with an EQ setting and then go back to normal. I'll give you a tip here. If you do want to start playing with EQ and you don't want to have to worry about being able to undo, just duplicate your track. So just add a duplicate track and then copy down your track from here to here. And if you need to know about editing and all sorts of other things like this, you can check out other videos. But if I just did this, I'll just show you really quickly here. So you can see it's duplicated all of the automation of the volume as well as the track there. And then we can just tap, copy all this, copy again. And then if we come to this track, we can paste another copy of this track right here. And, why did I put it down there? That was weird. And we're good to go. Did I? Yeah. Oh, there you go. I've created another new track. I've done that slightly wrongly. I think you understand what I was getting at there. Let's just undo that now. I've added another new track, but yes, we would actually add it to that track there. So this is why I did my backup. This is why I'm very glad I did my duplicate, because I've made this a mess now. Let's just take a look at these background vocals that we have here, and then we will sort of finish up, and I'll show you some of the automation and other things that we have here. So the mix that we have here for the background vocals, what have we got here? Oh, I've totally stuffed this up now. Okay, abort. I've put my... Oh, no, I haven't. That's right. It's automation. I thought I put the background vocals down somehow, but I've used automation, which is why that was there. All right, let's solo these background vocals, and we'll come to a part where they're playing a little bit more, and let's take a listen. Hard to see this feeling might be wrong. So what you might hear there is, you're like, oh, why is there that weird tapping in the background? That is my kick drum. That is a cardboard box that I'm tapping while singing. So that's recorded on this track along with the singing. So right the way through. Now this feeling is just wrong. And again, I'm going to cringe at some of these while I'm soloing them, but I'm giving you everything here, warts and all. So yeah, that's another technique I used here, which is just to sing. And again, I did this because I wanted to use 4 tracks. I could have easily put some other sort of percussion on a separate track, but I like the fact that I have 4 tracks and had everything in there. Let's just have a quick look at our plugins and EQ on this track. It's fairly similar. The compressor is not as heavy on this because I didn't want that same thing. So this is using sort of a more default sort of compressor. And again, I've totally lied that I always mix 100% because I've only mixed 57% there. I'm using my enhanced tuning. How much am I using here? Probably not enough. Yeah, a little bit of pitch control there in the advanced tuning. Whoop, we're going the wrong way. Back to our plugins and EQ. And then visual EQ here. Oh, I've done all sorts of things. So I have increased the bass here, probably to try and bring out that sort of cardboard box kick drum. And then I've cut down in the mids there because that would have been competing with my lead vocal. So when you've got 2 vocals, you often want to do this where you don't want them both to be sort of really pushed in the same sort of range. So cutting in the mids can actually help. And I've added a little treble boost on this one, similar to what I did in the other one. So that is all good. Now, I have added a heap of automation and also a heap of track delay and track reverb to these. So let's just show that again. So you can see here on my master effects, I've got master effects enabled here I've got echo there, which is just the default echo, and the default reverb. There you go. I wasn't very adventurous with those, but I've dialed in quite a bit of that there. I've got just the reverb on the guitar there and just a little bit of reverb on that guitar, and my lead vocals, look at this, they're swimming in echo and reverb. So the way I got that really full on sound is that I wasn't afraid to push the echo and the reverb in there, and that can be what glues your track together. In fact, since I've messed up this track and I'm going to revert back to my other one, what I'll do is I'll play this and then I'll remove all of those master effects, and let's just take a listen to what the difference sounds like. Let's just find a spot here. You say even when there's good things happening, the party will be at an end real soon. And let's just remove all of these master effects across all of these, especially our vocals. This is going to make a big difference here. And obviously we've still got some of our other track effects on, but we don't have our master effects. Let's take a listen now. And you say you might be happy now, but I've a million ways to open up the wound. So it's a subtle difference here because we still do have some of the track reverb and the track delay, but adding in those master ones, in my view, just glues everything together and makes it all sound nice and neat and tidy. So let's go back to there. So what I've kind of realized is listening to this track, and I took a listen to the whole track beforehand, is that there's not a whole lot that I actually want to do with this one. So you can see here that the only other thing I haven't really shown is the automation. I've got videos all about how to do the automation, so I won't focus in on that, but you'll see that especially things like the lead vocal here, if we just tap and we go into automation, you can see here that in the quieter sections, I've automated the vocals up. I've then dropped them down for those sections, dropped it all the way off for some sections, and then my fade outs at the end. And pretty much all of the tracks have a similar sort of feel. There's one here where I fixed a little pop or a click that I had in there, which I remember doing in the original videos as well. But for the most part, the guitar backing vocals, they start louder because I wanted them to be, they're the only instruments at the start, so I needed them slightly louder. They drop down a little bit through the rest of the track. The other two tracks here, the backing vocals go all over the shop and the lead vocals just have a little bit there. So automation can be the difference between a really nice leveled out mix and something that is going to be a little bit all over the place, which is the compressor helps with, but automation is kind of that final touch. And as I've said many times before, leave your automation to the very end because you want to be able to automate the tracks and be able to do that. What it will actually do is it'll make your volume knobs go like this, so you can't actually adjust the volume, you have to do it all within automation. So get your volumes about right when you're mixing and then go from there. So that is going to do it. As I said, I wanted to do a simple one, and a simple one still lasted, 20 minutes, but I wanted to take you through the mixing decisions I made on this one. This is the one that I'm pretty happy with the mix, and I was happy to begin with. In the future videos, there will be other songs where I want to do a whole lot more mixing on, and it won't go into as much detail because I used a similar sort of process for acoustic guitar and vocals on a lot of other songs. So we'll build on this as we go. I hope you got some interesting sort of insights and a few tips and tricks as we went along with this one. And as I said, if you join me in the following videos, we're going to go through, and there's one song in particular that I want to do a faders down complete mix of. So if that's something that you want to see, then that will be coming up, and we've only got 7 days left, so it's going to be coming up very, very soon. Thanks again for watching this one. Now let's finish up here. I will go back to, in fact, I'll do that now. I'll go back to my original version because I have broken that one with all of the changes that I've done there. And what I'll do is we'll go out with this song. This is my song, Anxiety, the full version here. And if you have comments about this or there's things that are glaringly that you want me to change, then let me know in the comments. Let's play this song now. Time for hope is gone and there is nothing left to comfort in the end. And you say, even when you're feeling good, that something else will come around the bend. And I'm always thinking, always trying to hold on.
and I always fear that something else will go wrong. It's wrong. You say even when there's good things happening, the party will be at an end real soon. And you say you might be happy now, but I've a million ways to open up the wound. And I'm always hurting, always trying to hang on. And it's hard to see this feeling might be wrong, and it might be in my head, but my heart is racing and I'm scared. And I take a breath and try to see you're not real, you are just anxiety. You say you never get away from me, you might as well just settle in and deal. And you say you're stuck with me forever, this will always be the way you're gonna feel. But I don't believe you, I can still carry on. And I realize now this feeling is just wrong, and I know it's in my head, and my heart is stronger, I'm not scared. And I take a breath and know it's me. I'm not you, you are just anxiety. Walk right out the door, 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 walk right out the door.
So there you go, one track down, many to go, but I hope you enjoyed seeing a little bit behind my thought process going into this, the mixing that I did originally, and then where we ended up here with this track, which is not very different to our original mix that we had in the first place. So we're now ready to put that into our list for mastering down the track. So if you've got comments, questions, or suggestions about this song, this process, or anything, you can leave those down below. And if you do want to check out the entire mixing process that I went through, or the recording and mixing process for that song Anxiety, I'll also link that up there and down there as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Hey, thanks for hanging around till the end of the video. If you would like to keep up to date with the rest of these tracks as I go through the mixing and mastering process, make sure you subscribe to the channel. You can just click on the icon in the top right there and then click subscribe and you're good to go. You can also head on over to studiolivetoday.com for more audio goodness.